Hi YouTube, my name is Jack. And today we're going to do a little tarot talk, which I haven't done on the YouTube channel in a while. Um, I was in a mood today. Yes, hi sweetie, everyone can see you, that's very nice. Uh, I was itching to pick up my cards and do a reading, but I didn't really have anything specific to do a reading about. Um, like I don't have a lot of questions right now. My life is in a pretty good place. There's the world, which is terrible and on fire and scary, but there's very little that's sort of within my sphere of control that I have questions about or have uncertainty about, right? Like there are things in my life that I need to work on or that I'm sort of waiting on other people to act. And like there are things, there are always things, but really there's nothing that I need divination on right now. There's very little that is kind of an open question that I need answers to that would cause me to reach for a deck. Where there are things that I need to do, hang on one second, I think the cat is being naughty. We're back. She has recently developed a new hobby, which is unraveling the roll of toilet paper and just putting toilet paper all over the bathroom, which is very creative of her. And I don't mean to inhibit her artistic sensibilities, but it's also a waste of toilet paper and it's going to get expensive if it continues. And I tried turning the toilet paper roll around the other way. Unfortunately, I seem to have a very smart cat and she figured out how to unravel it anyway. So, no, so like I have things going on in my life because life is like that, but there's nothing that I need to ask a question about for divination. So tonight I decided to do something that I haven't done in quite some time, and I did a general reading for myself. And I did a general reading using a modified version of the opening of the key spread, which, for anyone who's unfamiliar with the opening of the key, I first picked it up from Benebell when. It's an old Golden Dawn technique. Um, I, over time, have come to do it sort of in slightly different ways. The card counting techniques that I use, the way that I position certain things. Like, at this point, I have kind of a personalized variant of the opening of the key that I use, but it's a really wonderful technique, and it's this big, expansive, sort of five-stage tarot reading. And then each of those five stages is itself like a multi-step process. It's a very, very involved reading. It gives you a very big picture of everything that's going on in your world, and then it narrows in on one specific thing, and it provides you an incredible amount of detailed information about that one specific thing. So it's a very good reading to do for yourself. I'd never do an opening of the key for other people because it's exhausting to try to interpret. But it's a very good reading to do for yourself when you have time and you don't mind doing a lot of interpretation. And when you don't necessarily have a specific question to ask and you kind of just want to see what comes up. So tonight I did an opening of the key, and it was very interesting. It zeroed in on something in my life that I haven't been thinking about all that much lately. Um, and yeah, I figure we'll just walk through kind of the surface level analysis of this reading. I'm not going to go into all of the detail because there's too much detail to go into. But let's just walk through this reading together. Um, so the opening of the key is divided into 5 operations. And the way that it works, broadly speaking, is you have your significator, and in each of the 5 operations, you sort of deal out a particular reading, and then you identify the location of your significator within that reading, and its position relative to certain other cards provides you with information to deepen the message of the reading. So the first operation is elemental. You do a reading with the 4 elements, and my significator was in the pile of cards associated with the element of water. It was covered by the Princess of Discs. I was using the Thoth deck for this, so princesses instead of pages, knights instead of kings, princes instead of knights. You get the idea. But so we're dealing with elemental water. We're dealing with something in my emotional life. The second operation of the reading is the 12 houses of astrology. And we landed on the 9th house, which is interesting. I don't feel like I have a lot of 9th house things going on right now. Sweetie, what are you doing? That is not for a kitty cat to chew on. I'm gonna let you keep doing that because I'm filming a video, but I'm not happy. It's better than the toilet paper. It's fine. Um, I don't feel like I have a lot of ninth house things going on right now. But this was the ninth house, and the ninth house was sort of covered by the primary card associated with the ninth house in this reading was the Knight of Discs, which would be the King of Pentacles in a Rider-Waite system. Um, and partly because of the Knight of Discs, partly also because of kind of just sitting and thinking about this and then looking at other things that showed up later in the reading. I feel like the ninth house here, not really about travel. I have a little bit of travel that I'm doing this year, but nothing that kind of fits in with anything that came up in this reading. Um, not really about education or philosophy, right? Like, obviously, I work in higher ed now. I no longer work that corporate job that I had before. But even so, I work a 9 to 5. I'm not actively teaching. I'm kind of on the back end of things in higher ed. Sweetie, hey, no, that's not for a kitty cat, okay? Let's go down there. It's absolutely destroying my shit. It's fine. I love her. I really see the ninth house here as sort of as dealing with ambition almost, sort of a yearning, a striving for something higher, which is kind of like right on the border of something that might be classically considered a ninth house subject. Really, that would probably be more 10th house, but you'll see why, as sort of as the reading unfolds, why that's the sort of thing that I'm honing in on. Is I think that this reading is about ambition and about a feeling of like, okay, my life is in a pretty good place overall right now, especially looking at other aspects of the reading that I didn't really go into detail with. Where am I going from here? Like, what's the thing that's next? And then having identified that this is a watery reading, this is an emotional reading dealing with a ninth house subject, the third operation deals with the signs of the zodiac, so which sign is being placed in the ninth house for this reading, and that was Aquarius. And we got Aquarius in the ninth house, or in we got Aquarius covered by the Four of Swords, which in the Thoth system is called Truce. So, right, again, Truce. Truce is this feeling of like, okay, things are calm right now. What comes next? Where are they going? And Aquarius, I think in particular, is a sign that really asks a lot of those questions and thinks about like, okay, what's the big picture here? Not just looking at where things are right now and things being settled, but trying to find something bigger, right? Aquarius doesn't like to settle. The fourth operation of the opening of the key is the weirdest of the four, or of the five. It's the decans of the zodiac. It like you don't really do that much with interpreting the fourth operation, except that it provides additional information with the card counting. So I'm going to skip over that one. The fifth and final operation of the opening of the key is a tree of life spread. So it's a Kabbalistic tree of life, and the sphere that the significator was located in was Chokmah, which is the sphere of sort of a dynamic force, motion, change, right? The need to push things forward. And this contributes to why I'm interpreting that ninth house question in the way that I am, right? What I'm seeing here is um, the kind of overall first pass of interpreting the opening of the key is being in a place in life where things are very good, but there's a feeling that something needs to continue to be in motion, not because anything is wrong and needs to be fixed, but just because there's a kind of dynamism that comes with living life where you need to be striving for something. Um, and Chokmah in particular here, covered by the Knight of Wands. So you have my significator, which is a knight. You have the Knight of Discs in the ninth house, and then you have the Knight of Wands in Chokmah. That's 3 out of the 4 knights. There's a lot of knight stuff going on here. Put a pin in that, we'll come back to it. Part of the opening of the key is in each operation you stop and you follow a particular card counting method to select certain cards from the deck as being particularly significant to the interpretation of the overall reading. I'm not going to go through that card counting process here, but I'm just going to list in order the cards that were pulled out over the course of all 5 operations. And these were the Three of Discs, which is titled Works in the Thoth System, the Emperor, so gosh, there we have another sort of knight-like figure, right? We got a lot of male authority happening here. We've got the Four of Wands, which is called Completion, the Six of Cups, which is Pleasure, the Queen of Wands, the only queen we've got in the reading, the Ten of Wands, starting to get into heavier stuff, the Hanged Man, and then the Ten of Discs, which is titled Wealth in the Thoth System. So, a lot of information there. I'll put it in writing down below for anyone who wants to look at that. And if you want to take a stab at your own interpretations, you're more than welcome to. I'm sharing this reading publicly because it's nothing so intimate and personal that I feel unwilling to let strangers talk about it. But what I see in all of these cards, especially in that order, is again this sense of ambition, and I think it ends up being very closely tied into career, particularly with the Three of Discs and the Ten of Discs kind of bookending that series of counted cards. And again, career, more of a 10th house question than a ninth house question, but it's just like, it's what I'm seeing the cards really circling around. And I think the ninth house is indicating that it's not so much a question of career for the sake of career, it's a question of like career as a means of fulfilling this sort of personal need for a goal, for striving for something to be moving toward. I've had a couple of conversations with my manager at work recently about kind of the trajectory of my career. He's going to be leaving the university soon. He's moving on to something else. And he's working very hard to make sure that his employees are set up on a trajectory so that whoever the next manager is that comes in kind of sees the direction that they're heading and knows that they have a place to go. So he and I have been having a lot of conversations about that and about sort of potential prospects and things to look forward to down the line, places to go, places to grow in my career at this university. And yeah, it's in particular, there is a specific opportunity that he and I have talked about that's not on the table right now. It probably wouldn't be a realistic possibility probably for a couple of years, but it is a possibility. It just, would be more of a long-term goal. And it's something that he and I have talked about, and I'm of two minds about it. And I haven't given it a lot of deep thought because, again, it's not on the table right now. It's not a decision that needs to be made right now. But the the things that I'm thinking about it are basically what are expressed in these counted cards right here, right? Like on the one hand, it would be, I think, a fruitful direction to go with my career in terms of it would be more money, it would be more stability, it's work that I would be very good at. Um, and to a certain extent, I think it's work that I would enjoy. The thing that I'm hesitant about is that I don't know if it would overwork me. I don't know if going in that direction would potentially demand too much of me, make it harder for me to enforce a work-life balance, put me in a position where people were sort of implicitly expecting me to work outside of working hours, and basically be too much of a drain on my life. And I don't have a lot of reasons to believe that it would be. It's just an anxiety I have. It's just a fear that I have, right? And we see that with the Ten of Wands here. We see that with the Hanged Man here. There's this question of, like, what is the extent to which I'm willing to take on the harder and heavier work with the potential risk of it being something that might burn me out in favor of more money, more stability, and so on. And again, like, I've seen some people who are on that trajectory, who are doing that work. They don't seem burnt out, at least not at this particular institution. But it's always a concern that I have, right? Like, I think I have that like younger millennial value of I don't dream of labor. The idea. No, hey, what did we talk about? What did we just talk about? She's in a mood. I don't dream of labor. All right, like I want a job that is by and large fulfilling and interesting and that I enjoy, since I have to spend 40 hours a week doing it. I want a job that feels like it's not making the world a worse place. And I really like working in higher ed in particular, because I do feel like the work that I do contributes meaningfully to other people's lives. And that's all good. But at the end of the day, like, my job is just a job, and I want to work so that I have enough money to live my life. And I don't ever want work to be a defining feature of my life or of my personality. And so I'm very, very hesitant with certain things sort of surrounding the idea of a career ladder or career advancement, anything like that, because I have seen people older than myself, right? People who were sort of authority figures during my childhood get sucked into a culture of overwork and a culture of defining themselves in terms of their careers. And that's not a thing that I want for myself. So I think that's the anxiety that sits at the heart of this. And again, it's really with the Ten of Wands and the Hanged Man. And then the other cards are sort of expressing the trajectory that's been laid out, and indicating that this is a really viable possibility for me moving forward, but that there is this question, there is this anxiety that needs to be addressed if I am going to think about moving in that direction. Um, so, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. Definitely not something that I would have thought to ask a question about if I'd just been picking up my cards and doing a reading for myself. But I always like seeing the way that the opening of the key gives you like a general landscape of here's everything going on in your life, and then it picks one thing and it gets really, really narrow and it gets laser focused on that one thing. It's really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. If you have never heard of the opening of the key before and you are interested in learning how to do it, I really recommend Benebell's book, Holistic Tarot, which again is where I first encountered this. Sweetie, give me a second. The sweetest cat in the world, and she is also a fucking miscreant. Um, Anyways, if you would like to learn more about the opening of the key, I really recommend Holistic Tarot. It's the first place that I encountered it, and Benebell's book, just on the whole, is really fantastic. So that's about all I have. I just figured I'd hop on camera and talk through this reading that I did. Yeah. So thanks for watching. I'll be back next week, probably with something pagan. Until next time, bye.